Paling bimbingan, kan pernah jadi padahal paginya kan malam itu paginya kan pulang itu lagi apa lagi jadi dia kalau ulang proposal kan makanya saya bilang Bik karena kalau ada apa di sini tuh kalau yang saya kan kenapa kalau mau apa intinya kabar aja itu kecurigaan pertama ini yang jadi itu nggak itu juga aku kayak berapa hari ya kan otomatis kalau ada nih yang tempatnya bilang kan bisa juga kita jadi apa kan cuma kan masih tidak aku harap kalau ini cerita dulu kan nah mendain nama aku rasa
sejahtera, Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Rahayu Rahayu. Good evening everyone, welcome to the International Seminary, Political Islam in Asia Between Constitutions and Implementations. Before that, we start, please all rise for our national anthem, Indonesia Raya.
Kembali kita lagi mereka tahun bikin
Universitas Nasional yang kami cinta. Lahir zaman revolusi, penuh halangan serta rintangan. Walau betapa beratnya, sulit pahit diderita, banyak korban benda dan rasa kami pikul bersama. Dewan Guru, Dewan Kurator Mahasiswa, mari maju terus maju, pantang hati, bimbang dan ragu. Lanjutlah umurnya, perguruan yang kami cinta, tempat kami memetik sari ilmu dan akhlak budi. Merdeka Sentosa Jaya, aman damai seluruh dunia. Itulah cita-cita putra putri Indonesia.
Thank you. Please be seated. My name is Gabriela Keisha as your Master of Ceremony today. Before that, please welcome our Faculty Dean and our Head of the International Relations Study Program, Ibu Dr. Irma Indrayani SIK MSI, who joined with us on the Zoom today. And also the Secretary of International Relations Study Program, Ms. Gulia Ichikaya Midzi, and also joining with us on the Zoom today. And we're also welcoming our guest speaker for today from University Malaya, Universitas Nasional, President of Islamic University Ukraine, and our moderator today, Ibu Atina Iza MSI from Universitas Nasional. And now, let's continue to our seminary today Before that, I will read some of the rules that participants need to follow. Participants are required to turn on the speaker microphone while explaining the material. A question and answer sessions will be opening when the last speaker has finished giving the material. Participants who wish to ask questions in the mandatory format, full name, college, or origin agency, in the chat column of Zoom. Participant is strictly forbidden to use harsh words that contain sara or corner party during the event. Fill the attendance link that each certificate. Participants are requested to take a screenshot during the event today, become a proof of attendance. And now, let's begin our discussions. Please welcome our moderator for today, Ibu Atina Isa, MSc from National University. Please welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are, how are you today? Hope you are healthy and always full. It never gets bored for me to remind all of you to always keep your distance, wash your hands diligently, and use masks, especially for those of you who may be outside the house while participating in this webinar. My name is Atina Iza, as in MSc. Today I will accompany you in the webinar with the main topic, Political Islam in Asia between Constitution and Implementation. This webinar is organized by the Department of International Relations, National University. The topic of our discussion will never be outdated discussions. Even a few weeks ago, in Indonesia, there have been several acts of terrorism from Muslim hardline groups. Therefore, the themes of today's webinar is very important to be appointed, especially in the era of globalizations, which characterized as an inevitable process that makes the world more connected and interdependent. There are several objectives of this webinar, and they are: first, to enhance discourses and develop innovative thinking around political Islam in Asia. Two, generating theories of political Islam studies on the basis of international relations perspective through investigation on contemporary issues in disruptive era. And the third, innovating new model and methods of integrative political Islam studies, which is compatible with the real and true humanity, religiosity, and spirituality in the international relation perspectives. Fourth, promoting the importance and relevance of Islam-inspired social science for Islamic awakening for the sake of human civilizations. To the presenters who will share with us all. Good afternoon, Professor Tumin and Dr. Robbie. How are you all today?
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
MashaAllah. In our discussion today, there will be two sessions. In the first session, the speaker will present the Constitution of Political Islam, and each speaker will be given 10 minutes each. Then we will have a short questions and answer sessions with the participant. Entering the second sessions, we will discuss the implementation of political Islam. Same as before, each speaker will be given 10 minutes each before entering the second questions and answer sessions. But before that, let me introduce our today's speaker. First, already present with us today in the webinar is Professor Dr. Makmur Tumin. He is a political scientist at the Faculty of Economics and Administration, University of Malaya. His works are on issues such as political thoughts, civil society, and Social Policy. He has 9 books credited with his name, in which 3 of them are about political thought. First, Contemporary Western Political Philosophy, Metaphysics and Numbers. 2, Western Political and Economic Thought. And third, The Essence of Muslim Theology and Political Philosophy. He is also the author of a book on civil society entitled Woman in Malaysia, The Struggle for Right. He also has 2 more books edited, Islam and the Dynamics of Civil Society in Malaysia and Civil Society in Malaysia. Apart from books on politics, he has published 3 books with other colleagues. These books discuss the social policy of organ shortages in Malaysia. His works in this area have been published in many ISI journals in collaboration with experts such as from the Faculty of Medicine and the Academy of Islamic Studies, University of Malaya. And starting 5 years ago, he has been actively involved in another interdisciplinary research field, religious studies, working with experts in fields such as Islamic politics, theology and philosophy, as well as the Quran and Al-Hadith. He has submitted his work under the Malaysian Islamic Development Department and other publishers such as 30 Publishing House in Malaysia. 3 of his works are in the process of being published, with 12 books published, 7 published and 5 forthcoming, credited to his name. And not only that, our second presenter today in this webinar is Professor Sheikh Ahmad Tamim. He is a president of the Islamic University. He is also a Mufti of Ukraine, a chairman of the Religious Administration of the Muslims of Ukraine based in Kyiv. In 1976, he came to Ukraine and studied at the Faculty of Computer Science of the Kyiv Polytechnic Institute. In 1982, he obtained a master's degree on microprocessor system and local area networks. He received his Islamic theological training in Syria and at the Theological Faculty of the Arab University of Beirut. He has a PhD in theology. He is the author of several books on Islamic religious topics. In 1994, he was elected Mufti of Ukraine at the First Congress of Muslims of Ukraine. And lastly, our dear lecturer, Dr. Rabi Nurhadi, MSc. He is a lecturer in international relations at the National University. He pursued his doctoral education with a doctoral philosophy degree from the Center for History, Politics and Strategy Studies at the University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and a master's degree in political science at the National University. For more than 1 decade, his expertise has been widely used in various government agencies, such as the Jakarta Parliament, Senate, Upper House, Ministry, and the Office of the Vice President. Not only active in higher education, he is also active in educational institutions and Islamic organizations such as the Indonesian Ulama Council or MUI, Nahdlatul Ulama or NU, the Indonesian Islamic Dakwah Council, the Islamic Student Association, and others. Dr. Rabi Nurhadi is also a former expert on the empowerment team for the state apparatus and a visiting lecturer at the Department of Administrative and Political Studies, Faculty of Economic and Administrations. He has also conducted research on Islam in southern Thailand, politics and security issues, as well as field studies in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Ukraine. And for the participant, if you have questions to the speakers today, please write down your questions in the chat column feature in the Zoom application. Without further ado, we invite our presenters to start their presentation today. First of all, it can be started from Professor Makmur Tumin, followed by Professor Sheikh Ahmad Tamim, and then Dr. Rabi Nurhadi. Thus, we invite Mr. Tumin, the room is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah, first I'd like to thank University Nasional, or UNAS rather, especially the Department of International Relations for inviting me in this station. It is really a great opportunity for me to share some of my thoughts. I hope you will be finding it useful after this. This is a very interesting topic, very timely, political Islam in Central Asia particularly, and the focus is on constitution and also implementation. Okay, I would probably have two important points to discuss, but I would like to share what I'm going to talk in this first session. I'm going to talk on Islamization in Central Asia, the Islamization in Central Asia, the past and the present. I think this is a very, very important thing for us before we can start. I assume all of us already some basic knowledge on Central Asia, politically, geographically, I suppose. But I think it's still, I believe it is still useful if we can give some background. What is the countries that we are looking here, Central Asia? So mainly is countries, 5 important countries. Of course, you can add more after this, but the 5 that I want to talk is Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. Okay. Of course, UNESCO may have other definition that we can talk about the others later. In general, there are 44 millions of population in this region. That is the thing. And obviously, Islam is very important, and therefore, there's a good reason for us to discuss on this subject. Okay, first, I think in order to give some ideas on the Islamization, past and present, I think it would be befitting for us to understand how first context between Islam in the heartland and the Central Asia, Central Asia, I should say. Now, I think I would like to start from the Omar al-Khattab time. It's quite strange and mind-boggling to me. As early as this period, you can see there is a kind of context. There was a record that suggests the Yazdajjal III, the last Sassanid Empire king, find way to hide himself in this region, Central Asia, after the Muslim armies beginning the Qadasiyah war battles and moved to Sassanid Empire and later, push the Yazdajjal into this Central Asia. I think this is the first point, the first context that we can understand as early as that period. Okay. Yeah. Number 2, I think it's very important for us to understand that there is a battle called the Battle of Talas, took place in 133 Hijrah or 751 centuries. This is very important battle for many reasons. One of the important reasons, this battle, the Abbasid and also the Tang dynasties of China, the Tang dynasties of China. So this battle is very important because from this moment onwards, nearly all areas of the Central Asia were put under the Islamic Empire. Okay, this is very important. Can we imagine as early as 133 Hijrah, meaning just around 100 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, more or less, the Central Asia, the 5 regions that I mentioned just now, already been put under the Islamic Empire. It's certainly stretching and mind-boggling to many of us. Now, I think when we talk about Central Asia, many names should definitely come into our mind, particularly Muhammad Ismail, or commonly known as Imam Bukhari. He was one of the great imams in the area of Uzbekistan today, in Bukhara. I think many of us know. And therefore, I think being a Muslim in that region, one could certainly connect themselves in the great imam of the past. Not only him, of course, many other scientists, philosophers, and muhaddisin came from this region of Central Asia. I want to also mention another point, which I think very, very important. The fact that the civilization of Islam begin there, it attracts many attention, and this is the period, especially in 13th centuries. This area is destroyed by the Mongol people. the empire in 13th centuries. This is the area that damaged by the Mongol peoples. However, immediately after that, if we understand the big empire of Islam after that, such as Timur, also begin in this area, including also the Mughal Empire also begin in this area. I think I must also mention the importance of Sufi or Tasawwuf leaning in this area. A name, a great Sufi, says Sufi master such as Khoja Ahmed is very important. That established the Yasawites movement, and it is still popular until today. I want to mention Sufism as very important because until today, the debate between Salafi and Sufism are very, very strong in this region. I think before we come into this period, there are three important points. So this region was once begin to put under the Russian Empire, particularly in 1860s and later up to 1917s. That was under the Tsar. Later, the Bolshevik revolution or the communist revolution under Lenin began to expand the empire and power, and it reaches, stretched to this region, Central Asia. So one can imagine when this region was put under the communist atheistic ideology, the mosque, the Islam religion was being wiped out. And of course, only occasionally there is a room for them to practice their religion. Probably one of the reasons that Sufism is so important in this region because of any public ritual should be banned in that region, and the practice of religion are mainly in the family setting or in the private setting. Probably Sufism is much easier to practice in this region. I think in modern context, I think we should talk about the Mikhail Gorbachev policies of Glasnost openness. From this period of Glasnost, then there is perhaps a room for private religious schools to begin opening their activities. And especially when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1990s, there we can see the myriads of the Islamic movement in this region. Now I want to start, I hope, another 3 minutes to talk about this. Shall I say the resurgence, I should say, the resurgence of Islamic movement and identity in this region beginning 1990s until today. Now, it is very important to understand this area is close to the areas such as Afghanistan in the south, Pakistan, India, Iran, and also on the west, Turkey, on the north, Russia, China. And then this, of course, this all powerhouse is very important for us because it brings great dynamics. Now, immediately after the collapse of Soviet power, many Gulf countries march forward in terms of helpings, especially in the building of mosques. I give you some ideas. The mosques during the Soviet time, there were more or less 25 mosques, not necessarily active in Kazakhstan, but now we can estimate more than 2,500 mosques in that Kazakhstan region alone. So it is huge, implying that the Islamic movement, Islamic activities is now not only become open and wide, but it becomes huge in its intensities. Now, it's very important because the topics of our today's discussion is on political Islam. I think one would certainly want to know what is the situation. Because this region has been suppressed for many years, more than 100 years or around 100 years under the Soviet power. And then I think you should expect immediately when they get independent, then they begin, the movements, the Islamic movement generally can be understood in two ways. The way I understood in 2 ways. The first, the one that continue the Sufism's route and also develop it for the purpose of the future, because the people over there certainly looking for spiritual outlet, and so they can improve their spiritualities. In one hand, you can see is the movement of Sufism, and also you should also expect, on the other hand, the movement of Salafism. there are many political parties, such as in Tajikistan, IRPs, such as a movement in Uzbekistan, such as IMU, and this region also been touched by international caliphate movement, Hizb Tahrir, for instance, in some way, in some way. And I believe my colleague, Dr. Rubino, know a lot about this thing. I must say also my areas is in political thought, so my knowledge on these areas is only cursory. Then I think the other way to understand the movement in this region by looking at the modern way to understand ideology. People in the West understand ideology into two parts, two components. The left is being liberal, the right is being conservative. I think for us as a Muslim, I would like to use terms such as philosophical-based Muslim and also the Sharia-based Muslim interchangeably, as well as we use the term liberal and conservative, if you don't mind. Okay? To give you some thoughts, some ideas, because Islam has been suppressed too long, so not many people in this region get the opportunity to understand Islam. I was told Quran in Tajikistan language only been published in 2009. Okay? So you can assume, though Quran in their own local language are still not widespread in this region. I think with that I'll stop and I'll give the back to you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much for the explanation, Professor McMurtamin. Now, next to the next speaker, Professor Sheikh Ahmed Tamim. Please, the room is yours.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I divide my speech to two parts. One part to speak about the history and the situation at the time of Soviet Union, and after that from the independence and until this time. Please excuse me because my English language is not very good, and I will try to read my speech. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Rasulillah. The Central Asian region is a very important region in the history of Islam. From the time of Sahaba, these lands were part of the Caliphate. And later, many great Islamic scholars from this region came into the Islamic world. For example, Imam al-Bukhari and Imam al-Nasafi and many others, and especially Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi. The history of Sufism is also connected with Central Asia. Such tariqat as Kabrawiyya, Yasawiyya, and Naqshbandiyya started from here. And also came the Qadiriyya from Baghdad. Sufism began to spread actively. A great Naqshbandiyya Sheikh Ubaidullah Ahrar gave the Muslim name to Amir Babur, who established the Islamic rule in India. For a long time in the Volga and Ural regions, the students went to study religious sciences to Bukhara. They joined and followed the Naqshbandiyya tariqat. When they came back home, they taught this tariqat their students. That is why many scientists of Tatarstan and Bashkortostan were members of this tariqat. And must know the Bukhara, even in the Soviet times, was the only place where Soviet Muslims received Islamic knowledge. A famous Miri Arab madrasa in Bukhara continued to work, but the Soviet government did its best to destroy Islam with the help of sectarian movement that called itself Islamic. Thus, the politicization of Islam in Central Asia started. It was in the late 70s. Because of the Soviet regime, muftis were forced to pass religious rulings and on the basis of Ibn Taymiyyah works. And you know the ideology which have had Ibn Taymiyyah. The politicization of Islam in Central Asia begins with activity of the Muslim Brotherhood movement, Hizb al-Ikhwan. Students from Jordan, Iraq, and Afghanistan were first to spread it. They gave extremist books to the also organ for politics, Taliban, and the movement of Uzbekistan, also Akramiya, and the Party of Islamic Revival of Tajikistan, local groups of Hizb ut-Tahrir and the Wahhabis, Nurjular, and also Suleimanji, and Jama'at situation more difficult. The Islamic education in the Soviet times was destroyed. The thousands of madrasas were destroyed. Teachers were shot or died in prisons. Some of them, for example, Muhammad Jan Hindustani, secretly taught Islam, but he could not help everyone who wanted to get religious knowledge. That is why thousands of young people from Central Asia travel to countries of the Islamic world to find religious knowledge. Very often they came to radicals who used Islam as a cover of their extremist ideas. And many of them ended up in Wahhabi madrasa and in educational institution of the Muslim Brothers and the Jamaat Islamiyah. Later, when these young people came back home as imams, they brought new radical ideas. These ideas ruined a Muslim society, which just began to recover from the atheistic terror of the Soviet period. So, called free trips to Hajj, financed by different radical groups, also from Central Asia. What that's the part which I think that's necessary to know now. And the second, that's the implemented and the practice after the political Islam in this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sheikh Ahmed Tamim. Next to the next speaker, I welcome you, Dr. Robi Nur Hadi. The room is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Iza, and all brothers in Department of International Relations. I'm very nice that we can hear our brother from Malaysia and Ukraine, Professor Sheikh Tamim, the president of Islamic University at Ukraine, and also Professor Mahmoud Tumit. I have a presentation. Maybe you can solve. You can saw my presentation, my PowerPoint. Okay. My issue in this discussion is about Central Asian regional dilemma, Islamic and security perspective. Actually, I just arrived from Ukraine, a meeting with Sheikh Tamim in Ukraine, and we look near to this area, and I'm also meeting with my colleague in Turkey, and now uh, here here and something some information from our colleague about this region. So my focus issues in this region is we can say that this region is a strategic region connecting China and Russia to Europe and also to Middle East and South Asia. Uh, this condition raises its own security problem for countries in this region. Uh, we can look the map. Uh, this region consists of five states like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. In north, this area connecting to Russia, and at east connecting to China with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, yeah. And in the west, Kazakhstan connecting to Europe, like Ukraine, and also we can look here in this map connecting to Caspian Sea, and in the south, this region connecting to Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan is connecting to this area. What the issues what the problem from this connection is, this region even rich in natural resources with a predominantly Muslim population has become a battleground for influence between Russia, China, and the United States, with various ideological or religious influences from these major countries.
Oh ya, alokan dulu ya.
We can look in from north Russia, and from the east, communism will be influenced to this area. So so this area seems to have a dilemma. There are where Imam Bukhari was born in uncertain how to develop into a country with an Islamic faith in the mid of strong communism, China and Russia at the east, and at the north, and also liberalism at the west, or even Shia Iran in the south. So we can, if we look the constitution, these countries generally have a democratic flavor. Maybe we know there's these states apart from Soviet before, and now when they have the democratization, so they will choose democratic flavor in the constitution. And generally also we look, they divide executive power between a president as the head of state and the prime minister as the head of government. Like in Uzbekistan, or Tajikistan or another state in this region actually give the liberalization to all religion, even Muslim as a majority population. We know generally in this region, even from Uzbekistan or Tajikistan, Muslim is a majority, but in front of communism, liberalism, and Shia, as well as the need for economic and security support, make these countries in this region attempt to accommodate secularism in development. So in this issue, we can explore our many information from the others, yeah, that we can also argue that why Chinese in this region make a cooperation like Shanghai Collaborative Organization, and also Russia want to make a great power again, yeah, like before Union Soviet broken. So that's why to look this region, it is the point that we can look interesting. This region generally Muslim population is big, but many ideology, many influencers from many variables like security, economy, and also ideology influence this area to accommodate. But one thing, the question is why in their constitution look secularism, not to communism or also Islam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Robin Hadi. Thank you to all speakers. Now is answering and question sessions. If all the participants have questions to our speakers, you may have it in the chat. Use the chat feature in the Zoom applications. You can use you can write in Bahasa, and then I will translate it to our speakers. Okay, maybe I will ask first my questions before the participants write it down in the column chat. My questions is to the all speakers here. What is the role of globalizations in the constitution of political Islam in Central Asia? Because as we know that the history is changed, and now it is different from before. So like, what is the effect and the role of globalizations in Central Asia, in the development of political Islam in Central Asia? Maybe to the speakers. And for all the participants, if you have questions, you can just write it down in Bahasa in the column chat, and then I will translate it to all our speakers here.
Yes. Is it possible for me to ask to the all speakers?
Yes, of course.
I am Dr. Hendra Maulana Saragi. My daily activity as the lecturer in our university is University of Nasional in Jakarta. I would like to ask first to Professor Sheikh Ahmad Tamim, the President of Islamic University. Prof, is there any conflict between Sunni and Shi'i in your country? If there exists, how the state can solve the conflict between two mazhab? And second is, I would like to ask Professor Dr. Makmur Tumin. Professor Dr. Makmur Tumin, I'm going to ask you, is Communist Party where it exists in Malaysia, if that exists, allow the Communist Party exist in your country? And the last is to Dr. Robi Nur Hadi. Dr. Robi, what from your visiting from Ukraine and Turkey? That's all. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the questions. And then for the speakers, you may answer, maybe start from Professor Sheikh Ahmad Tamim. The difference between, is there any Sunni and Shia in your region?
Is there any conflict between Shia and Sunni in your country? If exists, how the government and how the country can solve the problem between two mazhab? That's
okay. Thank you very much.
For this question, I want to speak that the majority here that's not Muslim, non-Muslim country, but we are about 5%. And the majority Muslim community that they are from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah have Shafi'i madhab or Hanafi madhab. About the Shia, we have some from Azerbaijan, from the south of Lebanon, and in our mosques and in our administration, we spoke about the basically of Islam, the meaning of the La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and we teach the minimum knowledge about Islam, and we are open for everybody. Some Shia come, some other non-Muslim come and convert to Muslim and to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But about the conflict, we don't have any conflict because the Shia who make contact with Iran, they have their separately places. But the Shia who contact with Azerbaijan, they different. They make contact with us. But we are working according to the studies of Imam Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa, and we are opening for everybody. And we explain the course of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Aqidah, that's Aqidah for all the Muslims, that's Ash'ariyya, Maturidiyya. But about the Madhab, we explain the majority here, that's Shafi'i and Hanafi. For the Shia, we didn't open any question, but if somebody wants to speak, we try to explain according to the ijma' and without any political relation with the situation of our community.
Jazakumullah ala ma ajabtum ya Shaykhi. Shukran.
Thank you.
Thank you for the answer, Professor Ahmad Tamim. Maybe to the next questions to Professor Makmur Tumin about the Communist Party.
Yeah, I think I think there is internet connectivity issue just now. I think if the question is really about Communist Party, obviously there is no so-called even pressure of Communist Party in our countries anymore. That is the way I think I can respond to the questions. Okay, there is no pressure from Communist Party. Yeah, thank you. I think I want to inform also two things unrelated to the questions. I'm not a professor yet. You can call me just doctor. Then I find very comfortable just to call me doctor. After all, I feel younger if you call me doctor. Feel older, you call me professor. Then number one. Then number two, I think I should also inform that I'm having eyesight problem. I think it's very important that you all know that I'm having eyesight problem. So meaning I am blind, completely blind, implying that I can't see you at all. The purpose is to avoid from miscommunication. Okay, thank you. Right.
That's my doa for you, Dr. Makmur, to become professor.
Amin. Amin. Okay. Maybe the last question is to for Dr. Robin Nurhadi.
Yes.
The room is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Hendra. A kind person, Dr. Hendra. Okay. Even the question is not related to this topic, but I try to connect it. We know Ukraine is near from this area, and I'm also meeting with Sheikh Tamim and many leaders in university like National University, Taras Stevensco, and also to our delegation from Parliament Corporation. So what we can set in Ukraine, according from Mufti Ukraine, Professor Sheikh Tamim, they said that every day many many people come to be a Muslim in Kiev. So it can mean that many people in this area interesting to Islam. And we know also in the last week, many soldiers from Russia go to East Ukraine. We call Crimea district, yeah, maybe Crimea area. So Crimea also majority by Muslim. What the point is, maybe Sheikh Tamim can also explain what the influence from many da'i from Central Asia, like Uzbekistan, to Ukraine, actually Sheikh Tamim self is from Lebanese, yeah. So maybe we can know that influence from Middle East to this state is also high. And how about Turkey? Turkey, I think, also same with many states in this area. I mean Central Asia, because even Turkey majority Muslim, Turkey also tend to secularism state. When I saw you at the presentation about the constitution, yeah, I call the constitution of countries in Central Asia and also Turkey generally have a democratic flavor, but they give the uh, the the strong power to president. Many states in Central Asia uh, will be that how big or small influence political Islam to the policies or Islamic policies. I want to answer the 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 attendant, the member in the seminar who has give a question in the chat room. Yeah. Uh, uh, with the simple. Even majority in this area, many Muslim, but the constitution in this area not use Islam as a religion state or formal religion in that constitution. Even this region, many influence from communists and also liberalism, maybe also Shia. But Ahli Sunnah wal Jamaah in this area is also a big follower. So that's why with this mazhab, Ahli Sunnah wal Jamaah tend to accommodate about Islam model. Even in many implementation, maybe we'll same with Turkey that implement scholarism development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Robin or Hadi. Maybe we can just move to another sessions, to the second sessions, and then we talk about political Islam in the implementations. So like for all the questions in the chat room can be answered more specifically. Okay. For the second sessions, we can start from Dr. Makmur Tamin, and then Professor Sheikh Ahmad Tamin, and then Dr. Robin Nur Hadi. Dr. Makmur Tamin, the room is yours for the second session's political Islamic implementations. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairperson. Now I feel younger when you address me as a doctor. Interesting. Okay. Okay. I think this second part is very interesting, and then I think I want to essentially zero in on what I want to talk about the young group in both Central Asia, perhaps in the world, including Indonesia. Then I think we can really gain benefit from this seminar. Otherwise, things are too general, and therefore maybe we might think that we got to be really focused what exactly the point that we think that we can really implement it, as well as we want to also attach to our ideas of the implementation of the constitution. I think just to echo what Dr. Ruby said, it is true exactly. All state in this region is a secular state, but I think it depends how you define secular state and what exactly you mean by secular state, because the word secular is very, very broad. Now, I would like to again try to benefit to the audience here, which I suppose probably among the younger generation, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is one of the things that I want to score in this second part. Okay, so just understand that currently we are, as a Muslim, 1.9 billion, and every 10 years there are increase of 3 billion of Muslims. And Muslims increase, the increase of Muslims population or adherents are just as twice of others non-Muslim. So you can expect in future the numbers of Muslims catching up very, very close with the other adherents, particularly among the Christian. It's very interesting. Now, from like 1.9 billion, I think we want to talk about the young generation, and according to the records, the youngs, that those who are 30s and below is around 62%. okay, and compared to the overall population. And this is very important because the future is very much in the hands of these young people. So if we can understand the dynamic of the people of your generation, then we can sort of forecast what exactly the future look like. It's very, very important for me to understand. Now, before we talk about what exactly happened in the world, let's look at what happened in the Central Asia among the youth, among the young, I should say. Now, just understand, many of their parents live under the Soviet times, implying that the basic knowledge on Islam is debatable. Okay, the knowledge about Islam is debatable. Unlike many of you, having very good parents who are ready to talk to you since you were kids, what is Islam, what to do, what not to do. Okay. Over there, what is impermissible and what is impermissible is abundantly, I should say, unclear. The young is very much unclear what exactly should be done, should not be done. Although I'm not saying there is nothing at all that the mosque can offer. Yes, do, but there are different compared to us because they cannot take their parents as their models. They cannot take their parents as their models, and therefore I want to discuss about this group. Okay, and I want to use what I call peer-to-peer models to understand the dynamic of the young in this region. I must say also, I benefit a lot from the work by Adib Khalid, one of the experts on Central Asia, and also the special representative of USA. She was Madam Farah Pandit, who done a very fantastic job surveying the peoples of settlement the young in that region. Now, what I want to show, and that's what I want to be, if possible, I expect questions from you because I want to use, as I said, my Western political philosophy knowledge because I'm trained as a Western political philosophy. So my knowledge, I want to share about this, and I think we have a Professor Sheikh and also Tolobino can correct me if think that I talk about Islam may be wrong-headed to you, to some of you. Okay, now. What exactly? Because they cannot use their parents as their models, they entail looking at their peers. Can you just imagine we don't have a models, our parents, and what we do is we look at our friends, our peers, what is basically they are following and what is the others is following among their areas. This is one way they look at. Now I'm talking, as I said, in relative term, not in absolute term. Relative means, of course, there are other cases they can depend on their parents. This is number one. So first, they're looking at their parents. Sorry, they're looking at their friends, their peers. What exactly they are following? Are they following what? Still liberalism? Are they following what? Shiite? Are they following whatever? Because overall, over there is Hanafi mazhab. So they're also looking about mazhab, why some people follow others and some others not. And the fact that there's a divide between Sufism and also Sufism and Salafism over there make them think twice, whether they're going to take left or right. Left or right here is just a concept. Okay, to understand which route they have to take. Now, things get so interesting and intense when there is internet. Now, meaning they are not looking peers among themselves, they are looking peers internationally, including you, Indonesia, including people in Malaysia, including people in America, in Canada, over the world. Okay, it is a normal. Even people like you, I guess, start looking internet how exactly the Muslim among the young practice in Malaysia, as well in your countries. This way, that's you know that the others will influence you, the significant others in particular. So in this scenario, one could certainly expect the influence of Western liberal are gaining root in this region. Now, therefore, it's very important for me what I want to take in our discussion about the Western political philosophy. What is liberal in principles? What is human right as opposed to God right? Because in the West, people talk human right. They don't talk about God right because they already, quote unquote, according to nature, kill the God. Okay. So I think it's very important for Muslims to understand, besides the idea of human right, at the same time the idea of God right. Let me try to talk what I understand about God right as far as philosophy is concerned, and later talk about human rights, the way that people believe on liberalism understand. Okay, their similarity and difference, should I say? So I think let's start with the ideas of religious people when they talk about God, and also they talk about right, they talk about equality. Okay, I'll start about this philosophy of we are equal. Those who believe in God, they're looking at their inner self, something they believe in their own self. Of course, looking outwardly, they are different. Just look at your friends, left and right. You see they are different in terms of size, tall, short, and so on, male, female, and others. Whatever you can tell, of course. But all peoples, believe there is something inner being, which we call probably soul. Soul, right? You may call it soul. Okay. Now, when Muslim or religious people say we are equal, what they mean is they are equal before the God. Okay, we are equal before the God. So regardless whether you are black or white, in front of God, you are equal. We are equal. We are in general are different in terms of the level of our, shall I say, taqwa, and the God conscious being person. If how much consciousness that you put to make yourself draw clear to the Lord, to the God. So what this is the basic meaning when religious people, Muslim, talk when they talk about when we are equal. Now, what happened when people secularize the idea of God or cut the idea of God? Okay, then people no longer talk about the idea of God as important. They're looking at themselves as human right. No idea of God whatsoever. Still, they're looking at their inner being. Okay, and for them, what is inner being to you and to me is equal. Everything that inside you and me is equal. The concept of inalienable right. If you have the right, I should be given the same right because we are equal. Equal in terms of what is inner us. Okay? And definitely, according to the West, when we become into this world, the environment that makes us different. And the environment we cannot choose. No one can choose their parent, can you? You cannot choose your parents. So whosoever your parent will determine and influence you. Okay, you cannot choose. Can you choose become male or female? You can't. You can't. You are different, male and female, according to the West. This is all they call moral right. Is you can go on. You cannot choose to be born in Malaysia or to be born in America and so on. All there. Just then some people when they were born in Timor, for instance, they will behave like the people in the Timor. So all this is called social construction. Now, the question in the West, the inner being is pure. The surrounding that makes us different. Therefore, if you want to respect me, you should respect me as equal with you, because we as a person in our inner self is equal. Therefore, should be respected equally. So this is the idea of human rights. Now, there are different here. The way the Islam understand the inner being, and also the West understand the inner being. The West simply cut the idea of God, meaning both understand is equal, but Islam different, and also in the West different. To give you some thoughts, some ideas, maybe if you're really serious about this, what exactly Islam can explain, you can look at Surah Rum, verses 30. There is a concept called Dinul Qayyim. Dinul Qayyim is a concept that when we were born, it's our natural innate being is pointing toward the Qayyim, Dinul Qayyim, pointing toward the longing toward the God. But in the West, they already cut these ideas. Secularized means the inner being is equal among us. No one should stop my potentials. So we can use our inner being as equal being, regardless you are male, female, black, and white. And this, therefore, they fight for human rights. Now, why I said this thing? Because this thing definitely been discussed in the internet. Sooner or later, we will come across this one. Or we already been influenced, but we are not aware because we don't have the basic philosophy on this, what exactly happened. Now, in Central Asia, because they are looking for models. Okay, they're looking their peers. They cannot base on their parent that much relatively, and they begin to look at the internet and so on. So the fight now, or the thing that frame their minds, going to be in two opposite direction. Whether they are moving toward the direction of the religious people's thought, or they are moving to the direction of the Western political thought. This is the thing that we have to debate, and this is the thing also that we experience in Southeast Asia, and the thing that we experience in Southeast Asia, the thing also that now slowly being experienced by the people in the Central Asia. I stop here, and I will look forward for questions on this subject, because this is my area to begin with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makmur Tamin. And then to the next speaker, Professor Sheikh Ahmad Tamim. The room is yours for the second sessions. Thank you.
Bismillah walhamdulillah. First, I want to speak that the situation after the Soviet Union changed the face of the Muslim community in the central of Asia. And I spoke that the many foreign tried to use the situation and sent some delegation like missionaries to explain about their different ideology. The Christian and the political movement who use Islam for their ideology. And the choice of the government in the Central Asia, that's the secularism. And they open the freedom for everybody. And many used the situation. And I want to speak that who chooses the right Sufism, that's the traditional cultural education for the community, they try to continue. But you know, many theology that died or at that time in communism. But who can speak about the Salafism, that they use this name to find the way to come to the Muslim community and use the situation for the political Islam. And that's not right, because we understand the right Sufism, that's the right Salafism. And now, after the 30 years past the collapse of the Soviet Union, and we see the many people from Central Asia who were influenced by radicals at the time today fight in the Middle East. They contradict everything that Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, or Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari taught. Still, ما وراء النهر, the Central Asia, was a place of prosperity and high spirituality for a long time. Central Asia remained the center of Maturidism. Madrasas operated, and great scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah continued to work hard to preserve the true face of Islam. With the time, many people stopped following the Quran to call for good and caution from sin. People began to live the truth. Many groups started to spread their own personal ideology. And this is exactly what we see now. That is why we must follow the example of Imam Abu Hanifa, confront modern misguided groups and help them to return to the path of Sharia. You remember that Imam Abu Hanifa traveled more than 20 times to confront misguided groups and defend Islam. Also, Imam al-Shafi'i and many others did the same. Today, our brothers from the religious administrations of Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan worked hard to explain and spread beliefs of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nowadays, constitutions of some Central Asian countries recognize a special rule of the Hanafi madhab, and that's very important. It helps to revive the system of religious education. Imams started to receive religious certification. It helps not to give work as imams to those who received religious education in foreign centers and have radical ideas. The state also helps. For example, with support of Uzbekistan President Mirziyoyev, the construction of the Center of Islamic Civilization in Tashkent is in process, and the International Islamic Academy of Uzbekistan is operating as well. The construction of Imam al-Bukhari Research Center and the Scientific School of Hadith in Samarkand was lately completed. Its task is to study the scientific and the religious works of Imam al-Bukhari and other scientists, publish scientific translations of their works, collect electronic copies of manuscripts, spread this knowledge in Uzbekistan and abroad. The only way to stop radicalism is to educate, spread correct knowledge of Islam, use the works of our teachers, great Islamic scholars of Central Asia and the entire Muslim world. I want to tell you, in Ukraine, our Muslim community from different nationality, from Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, from Chechnya and Dagestan, and who convert to Muslim, and also from Tatarstan. Why we make good contact with everybody and try to make difference between the freedom and the ijma' of Ummah al-Islam. And that's very important to understand the Salafism, that's the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The Salafism, that's the knowledge of Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, and the leaders of Aqidah, that's Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari and Abu Mansur al-Maturidi. And the right Sufism, that also we can name Salafism. But now, who want to use the Islam for the political ideology, they speak about the Salafism, but they change the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They choose somebody from the history who use the Islam for their ideology, and we are not agree with this one. The Salafism and Sufism and the Ash'ariyya, Maturidiyya, for us, that's one way. But for Aqidah and for Madhab, any Madhab of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki, that's for us, that is the same. And if want to speak, or anybody want to speak about the freedom and use the secularism to find for himself some way, we must understand very good the meaning of ijma'. The ijma', that's one for all the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And the freedom, that must be not against the Aqidat Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Sheikh Ahmed Tamim. Next to the third speakers, Dr. Rabinur Hadi, the room is yours.
Okay, thank you. We must know that before we state about state in this region, like Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and another. We must know that this area fully controlled by the Soviet Union before. Yeah. So that's why we must know how Soviet Union make a regulation to this area. For example, in 1924, Stalin make this region split state by state, like in that year. This area that they call Turkestan Islam to be one area that they call Turkmenistan, and 1929 to be raised Tajikistan, and 1936 Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, and also Uzbekistan. This region to be state by state, remembering me at the southern Thailand when the regime of Thailand divided Yala, Narathiwat, and Patani, and also southern Thailand, like Central Asia or Turkmenistan Islam in Soviet Union. So that's why a state with this with one homogeneity religion like this area actually will raising the nationalism. So that's why in this area in 1980 rise nationalism by ulama. So that's why what the Professor Tami mentioned about Sufism and ulama have big influence in their political movement. It is we can understand about that. So that's why to look Islamic movement in this area, we must know how the policy from Russia, from Russia also to implement a heart and mind strategy to make collaboration. And also we must know China or Tiongkok also need supporting from this area, because this area near to Xinjiang in east of China. So that's why China also give many aid, economic aid, and also security aid as long as Russia also doing something like that. So we must also look Tartar community in this area that they influence to this area, and also many students from this area study in Middle East and come back to this area, and also give influence to political Islam movement. And one again, and also from Southeast Asia, like from Indonesia, yeah, and also from Europe and South Asia. So from many influence give the model and style political movement to this area. But one thing that in many study, this region have one question. When 1991, when the Soviet Union is broken, no one said going to make a freedom. Many years quiet uh, and this make a question, and my answer is loyalty from this region not built by politics, but loyalty built by ethnism, family, and religion. So this make a view to us that Islam in this area also give loyalty even that give to Soviet Union by communists. And now we look this area going to scholarism in development. Even some president from this region also want to make Islam as a new view, like Erdogan in Turkey. We know in a global influence in international relations now, we can we cannot to make a determination that our global can influence to many political domestic in many states, include this area. So that's why many states in this region going to scholarism in their development. It is also about the question to us, like Indonesia and also Malaysia. Even majority Muslim in that state not make sure that development will be led by Muslim. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravinur Hadi, for your presentations. Now is the question and answer sessions for the second session for the political Islam and implementation. To all the participants, maybe you have questions to our speakers, you may write it down in the column chat. You may use Bahasa to make you easier, and then I will translate it into English. Okay, here there is some questions that may have not been answered from Mr. Omar. Some Muslims who live in non-Muslim countries want to know the law whether or not they can form coalitions in general elections and give voting right to non-Muslim parties. They said that certain parties would serve the Muslim Ummah there if they won the election. Is it permissible for Muslims to give voting right to infidels if they are considered less bad? So he wants to know if it.
I can answer. Is that necessary?
Excuse me, pardon?
That's a question for me or for who? if that's necessary, I can answer.
Okay. Yes, you can answer because there is no direction. Is it for which speakers?
Yeah. Uh, according to the Sharia, we must do everything according to the Islamic education. But when we are in some places where the majority non-Muslim and or somebody use not the law of Sharia, we must understand that according to Sharia, we must live. We must do everything. But when we have a possibility to choose somebody who can help to solve our questions, and if we didn't choose this one, maybe the other man or maybe he will make a more difficult problem for us. We can choose one political party or one political man who can understand us and help us to solve our problems. Also, if he's not Muslim, because we are living like a citizen in one government, and we must understand the situation and the law that's not every law that's Islamic law, but if we not discuss with the political people and we did make a relation with everybody, nobody will understand us. Why I spoke that we make contact with the political and we choose and we know the election that's necessary for us to choose who can easily make relation with us. And I want to speak that the ideology of Hizbul Ikhwan, they refuse that one. And they spoke if anybody want to do anything according to the law, that's not Sharia law, he is not Muslim. And that's not right. That's not right. If I make relation with somebody according one law and that's not Sharia law, that the meaning is that's not necessary to refuse Islam. But we try to solve our problem using the situation. That's our answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Sheikh Ahmad Tamim.
May I respond?
Oh yes, yes, Dr.
Yeah, thank you.
Murtamin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam Person as well. Of course, I should say that I don't have any authority to say whether it is permissible or impermissible. But I can the methodology that we should take in order to decide on these matters. I think in every country there is a so-called Islamic ruling committee, Majelis Fatwa, Islamic ruling committee. In every country, you have Islamic ruling
Sorry, Dr. Murtamin, the speakers is not really clear.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay. Let me try to repeat what I said. Yes, I don't have any authority to say whether it is permissible or impermissible, haram or halal, dosa or halal. I don't have the authority to say that. But I think as far as methodology is concerned, any rulings, any Islamic rulings should be based on the Islamic ruling committee of that countries. If it is in Malaysia, it should be the Islamic ruling in Malaysia. If it is in Egypt, it should be in Egypt. If it is in Ukraine, it should be in Ukraine. If it is whatever, Indonesia, it should be Indonesia. we believe on the educated majority of that country, the Jumhur ulama in that country, to decide and so on. And we also understand there is a international bodies that we do have now the World Muslim Intellectual Association, which each country's educated majority can refer. I think the question of halal and haram, whatever and so on, is depend on countries. Different countries, different areas is different. Maybe to have a better understand, Islamic ruling in Kufa different with Islamic ruling in Medina, because Kufa being influenced by Ibn Mas'ud, and also in Medina being influenced by Ibn Umar. And therefore, one cannot expect there is always one law that applicable to all regions. We are completely different, we are complex, and at the same time we are united. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makmur Tamin. This is very interesting because some extremist group have an ideology that they want to implement Sharia laws, which is Sharia's laws is not very doesn't have like one definition, just like what Dr. Makmur Tamin said. So this is very interesting. Maybe for the participants, if you have any other questions to ask to our speakers, you may write it down in the column chat. Okay. So I guess there is no more questions from the participants. Okay, they're here. Oh, okay. So because there is no more questions, I think that is very clear to us. The political Islamic systems in Central Asia. So, okay, that's maybe all for our webinar today. Thank you very much to all our speakers. Thank you also to the participants who have attended this webinar. I hope the knowledge that has been given by our speakers today can provide useful knowledge for all of us. And before ending this webinar, I apologize for any shortcomings in carrying out this event. And thank you very much for our all speakers. Dr. Makmur Tamin, thank you very much for yes, thank you very much to Professor Sheikh Ahmed Tamim for your time, and thank you very much also to our lecturer, Dr. Robi Nur Hadi. I hope this can be beneficial for our